Hi everyone, I'm going to stitch out my 4x4 candy cane ornament, and this has a couple applique places. So I'm going to do this video just a little bit differently than I've done other videos. I'm actually going to show the stitching. Normally I turn off the camera while I'm stitching. Because this is an applique design, I want you to be able to see exactly what's happening where and when. So I will, sorry, I just kicked the camera. I am going to stitch out this entire design and talk about what's happening when it's happening. So first things first, just like with every in the hoop design, you're going to hoop your stabilizer. I have hooped cutaway stabilizer. That is my go-to. And now I'm going to stitch out the placement line for the ornament. Okay. Okay, I have stitched the placement line for the ornament directly on my stabilizer. Now I'm going to take a piece of vinyl, and this is a little bit too big, so I'm going to cut it down a little bit so you can see it fitting in the hoop. Okay. I'm going to make sure that my vinyl is covering all of the placement line, and it is. So now the next step will stitch out the placement line for the candy cane. So I will do that. Okay, so there is my placement line for the candy cane, and for the candy cane I'm going to use white felt. So this next step will tack down the white felt. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to remove my hoop, not unhoop. You don't want to unhoop. You just want to take the hoop off the machine. And I'm going to trim as close as I can along the stitch line. It will be covered with a satin stitch, but I want to make sure that it's trimmed close enough so that the satin stitch covers everything. So in order to do this, I take really small cuts. And I just kind of clip along with my applique scissors as close to the stitch line as possible without clipping in. And it is a process, but you want to do it as carefully as possible so that the satin stitching covers. If you don't have applique scissors, any little scissors will work, just as long as you clip real carefully. Even manicure scissors, cuticle scissors, I've used those before too. Okay, the center section of the candy cane right here is going to be kind of difficult to get in. I'm going to use my nippers, but I'm going to trim around the rest of the candy cane with my scissors and get that done first. Okay, and I'm going to take my clippers and very careful cut as much of the felt as I can. It just takes time and patience, but you can do it. You don't want to clip into the stitches. Just as close as you can. Now because I'm using felt, I'm going to just kind of clean this up a little bit just to make sure these little puffy edges don't show through. Very careful. If you were using fabric, it'd be a little bit easier to clip because you wouldn't have to worry about the little puffy strands. But this would be kind of difficult if I was using vinyl because you really have to clip in here carefully. But it could be done. I've done it. Okay. There we go. There, that's what you want. Notice I've clipped as close as I possibly can with my scissors and my nippers. Okay. The next stitch is going to put a decorative lace stitch on parts of the candy cane, and I think I'm going to do it in pink. I was originally going to do it in silver, but I think pink will make it stand out a little bit more. Okay, so pink is 4. I really tried to make it so that there are no jump stitches that you have to clip. Okay, before I run the next stitch, which is the satin stitch, I did notice a couple little puffy spots that I want to just trim up, just to make sure they're completely covered by the satin stitch. Okay, you see the lace on there? Notice there's no jump stitches. I made running stitches that are going to be covered by the satin stitch. Okay, so the next stitch is going to, let me show you. The next stitch is going to put the satin stitch right over the lace stitching on the candy cane, very small, and then around the entire thing. And I want that to be red, so we'll do that. Again, notice no jump stitches. Now I'm stopping my machine for a second because I want to show you. Once it's working on the underlay, it's kind of like your second chance to make sure that everything is all covered. You can see I've got just a couple little fluffy areas. Those are probably going to be covered, but I'm going to trim them just to make sure. And here's another little trick. Aleene's Best Press. If you lightly spray it on your felt, you can kind of bring these edges up a little bit just to make sure that they're covered. Okay. Okay, it's still a little bit damp, but it should be fine. Normally I would wait a couple minutes just to make sure it was completely dry, but the dampness will be fine. It's just damp. Okay, and because I stopped my machine, I'm going to take it back about 10 stitches just to make sure everything is all covered. And there's a little tiny thread in there from where I restarted. I'm going to clip that. Okay. Okay, so you can see my applique turned out really well. I'm glad I took the extra time to trim around it a little bit more when it was doing the underlay, and I saw a couple little spots. So that looks really good. So now the next part is going to be the holly leaves, and again it's going to be the same process. Put my hoop back on, and this is going to be the placement stitch. Okay. Now I'm going to cover that placement stitch with felt. And stitch the tack down. Okay, now I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to cut around with my applique scissors the holly leaf. It's kind of easier if you remove the extra felt before you get in there. Okay. Again, you want to really take your time and go around the stitches, making sure you don't clip into the stitches, just as close as possible. Okay, now I'm just going to take my nippers and trim up a couple little spots that I think might stick out. Okay, the next stitch is going to put the satin stitch around the holly leaf. Okay, so it's going to be the same thing. It's going to go around one time, and then it'll go around with the zigzag, and then it'll go around with a reverse zigzag, and then I'll do the satin stitching. Okay, there we have the leaves, the holly leaves. Now the next step is going to put the berries on there. So again, same step. We're going to do the placement stitch, cover the placement stitch with felt, stitch out the tack down stitch, and then I'll take the hoop off the machine and cut around it, and then we'll do the satin stitch. So first step, placement stitch. Okay, now I'm going to cover that line, make sure it's all covered with felt, and this will be the tack down. Okay, now I'm going to clip around the fabric again, remove the excess. Very carefully clip around the stitches without clipping into them. Okay, I'm just going to trim this up with my clippers. Okay, almost done. That looks pretty good. Okay, let's see how closely I've trimmed. Now I'm going to put my hoop back on the machine, stitch the bean stitch, or sorry, stitch the satin stitch. Okay, that looks perfect. Everything is covered. Now the next step is going to put the grommet placement line right up here, and then I'm going to put my backing fabric underneath the hoop and run the final bean stitch. Okay, first of all, this is the grommet placement. Okay, now I'm going to put my backing fabric underneath the hoop and run the final bean stitch that'll attach the backing to the front. So I'm going to do that in black. And this is a trick that I kind of use once in a while. Because I'm using the table, it kind of holds the backing in place, so I don't need to secure it with pins or tape. So if I could move the machine to the color that I'm going to use, then it doesn't move the hoop anymore and I don't lose my place. So what I do is I tell it to go, and then as soon as it gets to number 3, which is black, then I stop it, put my backing underneath it. Okay, so my needle is in place. So if I put my backing very carefully under my hoop, just like that, and center it, and I can kind of see where it is, make sure everything is all covered, and then I can run my bean stitch, and I don't have to secure the backing with tape or anything. That's just kind of a trick. I don't really do it with felt very much because felt sticks, but vinyl slides. Okay, first thing I do is check to make sure that my backing is on correctly. And it is. If it isn't, this is your opportunity to remove the backing and fix it before you've gotten out of the design and lost your place and before you've unhooped anything. So now what I'm going to do is unhoop with just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to put the camera on hold for a second and get my scissors, and I'll cut this out and do the grommet and the hanger. So I'll be right back with my supplies. Okay, I'm back. This is the first time I've ever cut out anything on camera, so I hope that it's not like when there's a police officer behind you while you're driving. You drive terribly. I hope I can do it. So my favorite scissors to cut vinyl are Kai serrated edge scissors, and these are super sharp. So I cut the excess fabric off first before I get in there and exact, or try to be exact. To me, it's easier to cut when there's not this excess stuff. So I'm going to throw that away. All right, now I tried to cut just a little bit around the stitch line. And I go slow, and I reset myself. And when you have little, when the stitch line goes into these little small crevices like that, I don't cut into that. I don't think it adds anything to the ornament if you do. So I just kind of go around. And then same thing, when you get to the grommet placement, you just kind of want to reset yourself and go. Sorry, I have carpal tunnel in this hand and it locks up on me when I'm squeezing things. The slower you go, the better you go. And it just takes practice. That's all I can say. You just have to get used to the feel of the vinyl in the scissors. Okay, and if by chance you do have any of these little choppy ends, you very carefully trim them and you'll be fine. It happens. It happens to me because I'm not on camera, but it happens. There we go. Okay, so next step is to take your crocodile and when you're using dark fabric especially, it's very difficult to see the thread line. So I take a marker, a Sharpie. In this case it's a copper one because it'll show up on the black. And I make a little dot in the center of where I'm supposed to put the hole. And that way I can see through the little hole here on the crocodile, I can see the little copper mark and know that that's where my hole is going to go. And I just want to punch through, just like that. And then to install the grommet, this is a two-part grommet. So the front part just goes like that right through in the front. Okay. And the little ring in the back goes right on top of there. And then you take your crocodile and crimp the end, just like that. And there you go. Okay. For the hanger, I'm going to take about 10 inches of twine. Actually, this is more than that, way more than I needed. Okay, put my ends together. I'm going to take a little piece of painter's tape, like that, so that the ends are together. And then if you twist it, you can use it as almost like a needle to get through the beads. Okay, just like that. So now you've got your twine halved. You want to put it through the hole, just like that. Reach through and grab the end, just like that. Okay, now you take your end that has the little needle thing. You can just kind of wind your beads through. Just like that. And then I tie a knot, just like that. Make a little loop with my finger, put the end through, and kind of move it down to the bead so that the beads don't move, or don't move much. Okay, just like that. Now I'm going to tie another one. Just like that. Loop it through. And that's where you hang your ornament. Okay. Just like that. Okay. So this design will come in a 4x4, which is this one, and 5x7. So hope you like it.